I finally got to sink my teeth into Battlefield 2042, and I gotta say, it is a big, beautiful world, but it is an imperfect world. And we're gonna discuss that today. So without further ado, remember, if you do enjoy today's video, don't forget to leave it a nice, thick, and juicy like as always. Of course, if you enjoy this kind of content and want more like it, be sure to hit that big red sexy subscribe button right underneath the video. Also gotta thank my channel members. You guys help make these videos possible. If you wanna join, get access to the exclusive perks that they get, be sure to check out that blue join button. Anyway, let's begin. First thing I want to talk about is all-out warfare. This mode has conquest and breakthrough. That's it. Some people find the variety here a little too low. I can understand that. I think these maps should be able to support more smaller modes, whether it's like a conquest small where you can sort of maybe even play with the last gen players, but you can also kind of play around on those smaller versions of each map. Could be something interesting if they add it. I would like it if they would add some more variety to the sort of base mode of 2042, that being, of course, All Out Warfare. But overall, both Conquest and All Out Warfare played really, really well. I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of the maps. I don't think Orbital was a good representation of most of the maps in the game, just being honest. In the beta, it really is not a great map compared to some of the other ones. Hourglass and Kaleidoscope were fantastic experiences in my opinion. I really enjoyed my time on those maps. I got to play Hourglass in both Breakthrough and Conquest, and it played very well on both. It's just a well-designed map that I enjoyed a ton. Also Breakaway, another pleasant surprise. I thought it was going to be Hamada 2.0, just being honest, and it was actually a very interesting map, and it's actually a good example of one of my points about why I like the map so much. Is not only are there plenty of ways to traverse around the map, I do think you rely a little bit too much on the call-in tablet, and I wish there was just jeeps and stuff you could just pick right up off the battlefield that were a little bit more common than they are. Sometimes you'll find like an electric truck or something like that, but it's not as common as I would like it to be. I think a few more would be nice. That being said, you still have the call-in tablet. It works, not like the beta where most people are stuck in the middle of nowhere. So you can get that to go from place to place. It's fine. But once you get to the objectives and once you get into the fighting, the way each objective is designed, it really offers a lot of interesting gameplay, not only just from the aspect of gunfights and finding cover and different angles to fire at. It does create some really nice organic battle lines, but you also have a lot of ways to traverse around the objectives, whether it's various zip lines, whether it's various ways that specialists can put down fortifications and cover and create these interesting combinations within the squad. I think there's a lot of really cool gameplay moments to have on these maps, and I gotta say, there's nothing like starting up a breakthrough match and you and your friends are on the attack and you see like 35 people rush onto one objective. It's a really cool feeling, and that's kind of why I like breakthrough more. I feel like the 128 players, the increased scale of the gameplay really shines in breakthrough as compared to conquest, where it feels like you could almost still be playing a 64 player match. It feels well paced, nothing too chaotic, nothing too tame. It feels kind of in the middle, but breakthrough is really where you feel that increased player count, that increased chaos, the insanity. The atmosphere isn't perfect, but when it kicks up and when it works well, it is insane. This game is really gorgeous. Oh my god.
By the way, yeah.
This game does have atmosphere.
Does it?
A bit.
Yeah, what I just experienced.
I definitely noticed there's some cinematic moments. I don't know if I'd call it atmosphere.
Yeah, I just came down from the tower and just saw the most beautiful fucking like Michael Bay film scene. Speaking of things that are insane, All Out Warfare does not only not have a functioning scoreboard, which it really needs in a way that isn't whatever this current thing is. It also doesn't have a server browser, which it really needs. And I'm sure a lot of people play with people from around the world. For example, on the stream that I had the other day, I had a friend that lives on the United States West Coast. I live on the United States East Coast, and another friend that lives in the United Kingdom. If we don't have a server browser, we can't pick an optimal server to be able to play where we don't have one person having a completely miserable time. For example, if we just hit quick match and it puts us in a US West Coast server, well, two of us are going to have a decent connection and the third one is going to have a horrible connection. Same if they put us in a European server, two of us are going to have an okay connection, the other one's going to have a horrible connection. That just doesn't make for a very fun time. So it needs that. Now, one mode that I want to just jump to and is pretty amazing is, of course, Battlefield Portal. It has a server browser, and a lot of people actually just went in and made 2042 server rotations, just 2042 as is, and they just played it in the server browser so they could make it easier to connect to. But that's not all Portal is. Portal is insane with how customizable it is. I already made a video going through like a little walkthrough tutorial of what you can do to set up a Portal server on the website. It's really cool just the amount of options that you have. I didn't go into the logic editor, and I may go and do a video just on the logic editor at some point. I want to understand it a little bit better first, but just the fact that you have that level of customization is amazing. And of course, DICE already put these preset servers out, so if people want to just go and experience just some old school Bad Company, some old school 1942, or even the classic that is Battlefield 3, the game that got me into the franchise, you can go and do that and experience them how they were as games, but with completely new graphics, new frame rates, new players, new maps. You can even change up the rules on these maps and make them your own. You can do so much, and it's just phenomenal that this exists in the game. You can even go and you can customize each one of your soldiers in the game. It's almost like you have 4 games within one. It's really, really impressive what they pulled off with Portal, and I can see a ton of people spending a ton of time here for more than just the old games. Even just having 2042 content in there could make for some really interesting new modes for Battlefield 2042, and I think that's where the smaller modes are going to be. I think DICE is almost relying on people to go into Portal and make the smaller modes for Battlefield 2042, so the most popular ones just live on and no one has to yell at them for how come Rush isn't in right now, how come this limited time mode isn't in right now, how come, you know, things like that. They can just make it on their own, have your own unique fun experiences. Really excited to see what the community comes up with there, and I'm really happy with Portal. Hazard Zone's the only thing I'm not going to get too much into today. When I was playing, there really wasn't hardly anyone in Hazard Zone, so I'm not going to try to run it solo because it seems like to be a squad-based kind of mode, so I'm going to wait to run it with friends and do kind of its own video and just kind of take a look at Hazard Zone as it is. So I'm going to skip on that for now. I apologize if you're looking for some sort of Hazard Zone topics, but I just wasn't able to really play much of it. Now, overall, the gameplay experience, I've already talked about a lot of the good things, but something that is consistent across all the experiences is the netcode and the bugs. I had a pretty buggy experience compared to a lot of other people. I had a whole round where kills and deaths did not count for anyone on the server. Like, if I killed someone on screen, the kill feed didn't even pop up. It just had the little reload button the entire round. It was really weird. Everyone had 0 kills and 0 deaths. I've never seen that before in a FPS game, but that was a thing. Plenty of issues with just weird random frame rate drops. Like, it'd be a steady 60 FPS. Like, I had no issues with low FPS on a consistent basis, but sometimes it would just crash down and my screen would literally freeze for a good 2 to 3 seconds before picking right back up again. So there were definitely some moments like that, but other than that, for the most part, the frames were pretty steady. It only happened probably 3 or 4 times throughout the day, so it shouldn't be there, but it did happen. Now, speaking of just the inconsistency and the instability, there were several times even on stream where I had to just close the game and reset it and go back into it fresh. I think that helped a little bit, it seemed to, but the game definitely needs some work to make it a bit more stable. I didn't have any just blatant crashes except for I think 1 time, if I remember correctly, but it wasn't something that happened a bunch. So, like I said, it needs a lot of stability work, and it just needs to perform more consistently. It works well when it's working. You'll notice this theme throughout this sort of early review. It's just when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. The other thing is netcode. Netcode had some serious issues. There'd be times where I just dump an entire magazine into someone and I didn't get a single hit marker. Just things like that. Sometimes you'd have random shots that just don't count, or, you know, you'd fire off and you could tell neither of us are even hitting each other. A lot of weird things just going on, dying around corners. That's kind of a consistent thing in Battlefield, but still, you'd think 60 hertz server. I'm pretty sure it's 60 hertz servers now. You'd think it would happen a bit less. It is what it is. Netcode needs work. I kind of figured it was going to be a little bit gruff on launch, but at the end of the day, the game just needs some pretty good polishing, and honestly maybe could have used some more time in the oven. I want to get into some of the gameplay stuff as far as just some of the smaller individual things. The DMR's got a pretty needed buff. The DM7 is really nice. I enjoyed my time with it. I really enjoy DMRs in general, and it was terrible in the beta. It's really good now. I really enjoyed it. If you like DMRs, the DM7 is definitely a good weapon to grab and just have some fun with. The SMGs are also really good. I didn't do too much sniping, but my friend who does a ton of sniping, Deuce Dread, you'll see him on stream a bunch, he really enjoyed the changes to the sniper rifles, and he did a lot of that as well. So if you're a sniper player, You're gonna like that. As far as the LMGs, didn't get a ton of time with those. They seemed like a lot of people were running them, so they're probably pretty viable. The ARs did get a little bit of a nerf. The M5A3, I think, needed it almost. It was pretty much the dominant gun of the beta, and it's still viable. It's just not as strong as it was. So I think it's in a decent spot right now, but the SMGs and the DMRs, I would say, are my two favorite weapons to run at the moment. Another thing that does need work is the M5 recoilless against tanks. I had more kills against aerial vehicles using the M5 recoilless, which is a dumbfire rocket. Like, it doesn't lock on to anything. I shot 2 helicopters out of the sky with it. I had more kills against those than I did against tanks. I don't know how many times I shot an M5 into a tank and I never got a single. It could have just been bad timing, but I never got a single kill. I don't know how many times I went through like my entire salvo. Just, I had time to go through each one, and I would even load up with more ammo. It just felt like I couldn't kill a tank with an M5 recoilless. I don't know if it's a netcode issue. I don't know if it's a bug. I don't know if the tanks just have that much more health. It seemed like they weren't really, like, they were getting blown up. I destroyed tanks when I was in other tanks. I don't really know what the issue is there, but it feels like the M5 recoilless does nothing against tanks, which is weird, but it could just be something with like a bug or something like that. I'll have to play around with that more, but that may need a buff. Now, before I leave talking about guns and go into movement, I do want to say that the 22 guns in Battlefield 2042, it feels like they want you to pick one gun that you really, really like and grind that gun out, as opposed to grind out all the different guns in the game. Now, I have mixed feelings about this, because for me, I like variety. I like trying out various different guns. I like trying out various different things. I don't really always like to run the same couple of guns here and there. Even in a game where I know a certain gun is the meta, I still want to run different things. But I have a feeling that in Battlefield, a lot of the players, they just pick the really strong guns and they just run with the same ones quite a bit, which is fine. I'm not saying people shouldn't do that, but I think they made that decision to have just 22 guns in here because you have so many different ways to build them out, and the grind to upgrade those guns is what the real progression is in the game. Could end up being a good thing, it could end up being a bad thing, we'll have to see, but it seems like focusing on your gun and making your gun your own is going to be sort of the focus of the progression, at least right now. That could change. Still not sure how to feel about it, because again, I prefer variety. I want to try the different guns out. I want to try these various different experiences and just see what works best for me. But it could be different, where instead of focusing on the different guns, you're focusing on the different attachments. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm intrigued to see how that goes as time goes on and how more people are going to receive that sort of a thing. Of course, we are most likely going to receive a bunch of weapons through the live service, so there is that as well. Now on to the movement system. The slide got a horrific nerf. I mean, I'm talking like a BF1 style nerf. It is useless at this point. I don't know why, because the people that are complaining about it probably aren't playing All Out Warfare. They're probably in Portal playing Bad Company 2, 24/7 Rush, with the slide turned off and prone only MMGs and complaining on Reddit. I don't know why you nerfed the slide. I think it was a pretty integral part of the gameplay. I think it adds a nice skill gap, but it's gotten nerfed into the ground. I don't like it. I think it deserves some kind of at least usefulness. I don't know why it's even there if it's nerfed into the ground. So I would like the slide to come back to at least how it was in the beta, obviously without the weird like FOV expanding glitch, whatever that was, but just bring the slide back to how it was. Like I said, it's basically useless now. I pretty much just tack sprint, and the slide is like BF1, where I'm like, okay, I know it's there, I can use it, and I'm like, there's no point in using it, so I'm not going to use it. So corners are basically, you can either peek or you can jump around them, but sliding around them, like, you can't be unpredictable like that. So I don't know, I would like to see it come back. I just want a pretty decent slide in the game. I think a lot of people would appreciate that, especially the people that are going to be pouring that kind of time into All Out Warfare. Other than that, the tack sprint is about the same. Obviously a regular sprint is about the same. And I do think that specialists that have the movement abilities, people like Sundance, and I saw a few McKays out there, but you have to unlock him. I haven't quite unlocked him yet. They seem to have a pretty decent advantage, because movement is a big thing on these massive maps. You need to be able to move and get creative, and a lot of your more skilled players are going to try and maximize their ability to move around the map. You can definitely feel it when you're using a specialist that doesn't have any kind of movement ability or trait. You just feel a little bit more stuck, and having that ability to move just seems to open up a lot more pathways when getting around the maps. So again, movement's very important, and a lot of people who are going to invest time in the game and invest in becoming good players are going to want that good quality movement in in the game. So speaking of specialists, that's one of the last things that I want to talk about. Specialists are not implemented perfectly. In fact, they are greatly flawed. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have benefits to them, and I think they can be implemented in a pretty good way, but I feel similarly to how I felt during the beta. I think at their best, they offer some pretty interesting gameplay combinations. You can have a squad with some interesting specialists that combine their usefulness into a pretty cool combination for your squad. But there's some that are just purely there to be a nuisance. One of them has actually already been taken out of the game, Dozier, because his shield was apparently not working as intended. Just give him a different gadget. Give him a completely different gadget. I would not mind in the slightest if they took Dozier's shield, got rid of it, because I don't know why you need a shield that deflects bullets into people in the first place for someone that takes half explosive damage. Doesn't make any sense to me. To me, he would be an excellent sort of like super engineer. He takes half damage because he can stand outside of tanks. He's got his bomb vest on and he can repair tanks. He's just really good. He can take apart things like Boris's sentry gun. He can just really quickly take those apart, or maybe like Irish's shield. He can just take that down with his repair tool. He's very effective with a repair tool. I think that could offer some really interesting gameplay, and I think that could be far more of an effective addition to a squad. You can also finally have someone who runs a repair tool and a rocket launcher at the same time, and it could be a great reason to run Dozier. With the shield, there's no reason to run him except for selfish reasons. He doesn't do anything for the team. You need a shield, run Irish. If you're running Dozier, it's purely to either frustrate and troll players, or you're playing purely for yourself and not for the team. And that's really the big issue with that shield. I don't think it's a very good gadget, and I hope they just take it out of the game. I don't see a use for it. Another thing that I really don't like, and something that I really wish was not in the game, because let's remember, Battlefield is not a battle royale, is the armor. It feels like they just looked at battle royales and are like, they have armor plating in the game. Yeah, that'll work in Battlefield. Battlefield's a big shooter, just like a battle royale. It's just a big open field, right? You just put armor in. It works. No. Armor in this game is, again, sort of like the shield, a purely frustration mechanic. I mean, this reminds me a lot of the MMGs in Battlefield 5 or the AT rifles. It's not a positive impact on the gameplay. It's not going to provide a positive change to the gameplay. There's a reason that running a specialist like Angel or running a specialist like Irish is so popular, and I did the best when running one of those two specialists. It's because they have armor, and you have a complete advantage in any gunfight when you have armor. There were numerous, uncountable times I died in a gunfight simply because they had armor and I did not. Whereas the vice versa happened. I had armor on, they didn't, and that's why I won the gunfight. Sometimes they would get the jump on me and I could turn around and kill them because I had armor on. They did not. I survived certain deaths because I had armor on, and normally I would have been killed in that situation. Or at least been very, very close to death, a lot closer than I was in that situation. At the end of the day, armor is purely just to throw off the time to kill, and it nerfs skilled players. So you go on a good flank, you start shooting a guy, he has armor on, so you have to spend more time on the guy with armor, giving the guy next to him more time to turn around and kill you before you can actually get to the next target. It's completely unnecessary, it's not good, it's harmful to the gunplay and just the general gameplay of the game. I do not like the armor. That's just one thing. It's not something that you need to change. Just get rid of it. It just needs to be gone. This was one of my big worries leading up to the game. I've been saying it ever since it was found out that the game had armor. It's just a nuisance. So that being said, Battlefield 2042 is still a really, really fun experience. And I really want to emphasize that part. It's a fun game. It's imperfect and it needs work. It needs a lot of care, it needs a lot of time, it needs patience, and it needs people to work on it and fix it for the better. But even in its current state, I found plenty of fun in the game. It's just a fun experience. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to get annoyed, and if these changes aren't made, it's not going to become increasingly frustrating to play the game because nothing is being done about some of these poorly implemented things or these poorly balanced things or even just these poorly performing things. But I still have fun with the game. It's still an enjoyable experience, and I think if you're just looking for a new Battlefield game to jump in and enjoy, whether it is in Portal, whether it's in Hazard Zone, whether it's in just all-out warfare, you can have fun in this game. Now, does that mean that I recommend you buy it right now? If you're on the fence, I would recommend just waiting. Just wait, see if it's on sale, see if it goes to EA Access. I would not just jump on the fence if I'm not just a diehard Battlefield fan. If you're a diehard Battlefield fan, I would say for Portal, if that really interests you, it is quite a bit of what you're probably looking for. If that isn't worth the full price, then I would just wait until a sale or something like that. In its current state, it needs a lot of work. I'm not going to sit here and recommend people just start jumping on the, yeah, guys, just come buy it. Because, like I said, it has work to be done. It's fun. I found it enjoyable. I had a good time with the game. I did pay out of my own pocket for the Ultimate Edition of the game, so this isn't, a sponsored video or anything. But the game needs work. It needs people to care about it in the studios and to take care of the issues within it. It needs work to become a great experience. Right now, it's a decent one, and it has the potential to be great. But like I said, you gotta put the time in for it. You gotta put it back in the oven a little bit, cook it up some, make sure it's cooked to medium rare on the grill. Make sure it's delicious. You know what I'm saying. So anyway, let me know down below if you have played Battlefield 2042. What do you think? If you enjoy it or not, I'd love to have a conversation with you. If you haven't bought it, I'd love to hear why. And I will see you guys in the next video.